I'd never felt a vibration so thick and thorough running through my chest, and I was just like, all right. I was like, hey guys. But it was also like, oh my days, oh my gosh. My chest started to come up a little bit. I'd never really seen anything like that. And I started to see people around me. I was like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And that was a great feeling as well. Do you really care that much? The hairspray was out. I had no issue, I loved it. I'm like, ah! Number 2, like, who am I? Mate, I'm a hair doctor. I cut hair.
That was exactly the same for me.
I don't have to do this all the time. Good question. Good question. Good question. Good question. What if I don't know the answer?
That is a very good question as well.
Nah. Yeah, I don't mind drum and bass, don't get me wrong, but I don't know what I'm eating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Good? All good?
All good. All good.
Yeah, we going? Let it flow, as John Frieda says. So, Josh, Lamonaca.
Yeah.
20 salons, barber shops, academies, 3 academies.
Yeah.
330,000 followers on Instagram. Respected all around the world by your peers. Your own product line. Do you feel like you've made it at the ripe old age of 32?
What a way to start. Nah, I haven't, because there's still things that I would like to accomplish. I feel happy, I feel content with the way that things have gone and the journey, but I wouldn't say made it. I don't know what made it is.
What would be making it to you?
Yeah, I don't know if there's such a thing. I don't know what that actually. I don't know the overall end product, the end goal. You know what I mean? For us, it's just enjoy that journey. But made it, I don't know what that is. I don't know. Does it exist?
What was your ambitions when you was a young man, when you first started out? Did you have goals?
Yeah. So when I first started out, it was more a case of, okay, I'm gonna just do this because I enjoy hair. I mean, for me, I wanted to be a professional footballer. You know, there was only one plan. Plan A was to be professional footballer, and hair was just, I'm just a bit interested in my own hair, and I'll just do that on the side until it sort of switched, and it was like, okay, I really enjoy hair actually, and football's just on the side. But it was always like still trying to make it. For me, making it was being a footballer.
Right.
When you say you made it, I think to myself, no, I wanted to be a footballer. So I got into hair because I was really sort of fussy with my hair, you know. Being a footballer, watching people like Darren Huckabee, who had this cool hairstyle, David Beckham, Ronaldo, you know, all these figures that I looked up to as a footballer had cool hairstyles. So I was like, I want to do something with my hair. And every time I went to a barber shop, they just couldn't do what I wanted. And I was about 14 years old, and I wanted something specific, which was to have sort of, you know, slightly shaved sides and have this little mullet with a little bit of blonde in my hair going diagonal. I couldn't find it anywhere. And it kind of led me into a frustration that, why can't these barbers do what I want to do with my hair? So that made me very particular about how I wanted my hair to be. And eventually I started to have my auntie cut my hair, and because she was my auntie, I could talk to her a little bit more. She's my family, you know. Whereas a 14-year-old boy, we're talking, 17 years ago, in a barber shop, there wasn't really a lot of communication between a 14-year-old boy and a barber who's
and no
40
consultations, I suppose.
Yeah. Whereas now, a 14-year-old boy going into barber shop, they'll tell you what they want. You know, and that's the evolution of communication and style and vanity that there is in men's hair or male appearance.
So when did you decide? Was there a moment, an incident, a person that inspired you to go, okay, this is it, I'm going to do hair?
Not necessarily a person or an instance. It was more just, I'm still trying to be a footballer, but I enjoy cutting hair on the side. And, where I was at college, doing a football academy scheme, I had lots of guys around me, you know, of all, you know, Afro hair, Caucasian hair, Asian hair, and everyone wanted a shape up before the game or after the game or before we go out on a night out. And for me, it was really fulfilling to be able to give these guys a little something to...
What, you used to cut their hair?
Yeah, I used to.
And how old was you then?
I was in a change room trimming people after the game or
How
before
old?
training. I was 17 at this time.
17. And they didn't mind this person that was inexperienced?
Nah, because I started when I was like 15, just sort of leaving school. Because when I started getting my hair cut by my auntie, eventually I started to get the hair slowly towards where I wanted it to be. So my friends started to notice at school, like, oh, your hair's a little bit different. Like, that's cool, isn't it? And so I said to them, yeah, it's cool, we like it. And they said to me, yeah, you know, do you reckon I could get my hair cut like that? I said, yeah, I can do it. And I lied to them. I said, yeah, I can do it. I'll do it myself. And I started just having a go at my friend's hair. I didn't know what I was doing, but I bought a little Remington box, $29.99 from Argos. I gave it a go. I was just sort of trimming up people's hair with the scissors and stuff. And it started really also because my brother, he had this little trimmer and he was just banging lines in people's hair, you know, like little tram lines and eyebrow slits. And he was doing that to his friends. And obviously as a younger brother, you kind of tend to just always gravitate towards what your older brother does. So I was also inspired by that as well, you know, to say the least. And, you know, from there it was like, you know, I started to trim and then obviously went into college, had a little bit of experience. And,
what, college hairdressing?
Nah, as in college where I was doing the football scheme.
Football, right.
So that's where I had a little bit of experience and then I started learning to shape up people's hair and started to do their
No
mark out.
training?
No training, just me and a clipper, learning how to do the chin strap and, you know, at the time there wasn't so much fading, it was just more line outs and, you know, scissor trims. And if you put a number 2 on someone's hair, that shit was short. That was short. You know, you were wild if you went a number 2 on the sides, because, you know, back then it was all about this V cut, you know, this little mohawk V cut, and, you know, it was just the trim that everyone wanted, front fade maybe, you know, and that was it.
So where did you go from there?
So from there, I left the football college. It was a 2-year scheme, and I said, you know what, I need to get a qualification in barbering if I'm going to do barbering on the side. Still trying to make it in football. So by this time I was doing, you know, under 18s football and reserve football midweek. So it worked for me perfectly. So I got a little job as a 15-year-old at the time in Essentials. So I was 15, just taking it back a little. I was 15 and I got a job in Essentials.
So in a hairdressing salon?
In a hairdressing salon, yeah. And I just remember being on my feet all day, making tea, doing shampoo. I get £20 at the end of the day. I had no issue. I loved it. But it was hard, so hard. And it also gave me the knowledge that I didn't want to do that full time. So I went to college. I did college 3 days a week in barbering. So this time I'm 17 years old. I'm doing 3 days a week in college. I'm doing 1 day a week at a local barber's, which was in town.
Here?
Yeah, here. Which is also an interesting story.
Yeah.
The Village Arcade it was called, and I was working there every single Saturday, and 10 years later we now own that as a men's spa.
Right.
Another
in
story.
St Albans.
In St Albans.
And what was that barber's like at the time?
Yeah, it was 3 of us. There was a woman owner called Lorraine, and it was quite easy going really. It was, you know, a lot of dads and sons, and obviously what I brought to the market was sort of the 17, 18-year-old crowd who would just come to me for a trim because they're my friends. So it was like an interesting dynamic, and then I got sort of my hands on sort of older people's hair. So
you was cutting hair on the floor?
Yeah, I was cutting hair, yeah. So I was in the college 3 days a week with already kind of a 2 years self-taught experience. So, you know, I felt very comfortable there being at the college. And in fact, by the end of the course of 1 year, I started to help the other students, which was where I first had an insight of helping someone, giving someone information, which gave me that like really rewarding feeling of, you know, being a teacher as such. And it was a really interesting fusion of what I was interested in and what I was being taught. What I was interested in was all about texture, straightening hair, styling hair, but But what I was taught at the college was pretty much all about fading. I went to college in Luton, and you know, Luton is very multicultural. There's a lot of black people, there's a lot of Asian people, a lot of white people, and it was just all about fading, lineups, patterns, you know, 15 years ago.
And what was your experience with training in a college?
I was very motivated because I knew what I wanted to do. I was very passionate about hair even then. And when I was in a class of people who weren't so passionate, it made me more passionate, because I discovered actually this is much more than just what I thought was a hobby. At the very beginning, the hobby turned into a passion then, because I discovered that there's something here that I actually love to do. And you know, that was my experience with you know, having 20 other people in the same class.
And were the mentors good?
Mentors were great, to be honest with you. I had Paul Mills, which was like a really disciplinarian. He was the head of education there. He was just all about service, you know, and just professionalism.
Strong technique?
Strong technique. And then I had 2 Afro-Caribbean, you know, tutors really, who obviously were fantastic in Afro hair and fading and, you know, the real core barbering thing. You know, Craig Bennett and Steve Campbell, amazing. You know, so I had a real kind of nice mix of this kind of disciplinarian, be strong professional and Afro fading, but then I had my own niche that I wanted to bring, which is styling hair, straightening hair, making texture in hair, because at the time barbering was just shum, shum, shum. And then what I'd picked up from Essentials was this kind of softness that I wanted to bring into the men's market, which was, you know, where it was heading. It was, you know, men's hair and the overall vanity of men was becoming a lot softer.
And back then, I think people were going to the barbers for their fade and then going to hairdressers for them to cut the top of their hair, right?
This was my time.
Yeah.
This was my time.
So what brought you into Hob then? How did that happen? How did you go from barbers into a salon?
So I eventually, from that same college, I did another year at the same college because Paul, the head of education there, said to me, Josh, why don't you just do hairdressing? And at the time I was like, I'm not really interested in women's hair, but if it means that I don't have to do 2 years, because I've already got some of the units in barbering, I can just do 1 year. I thought, fine, I'll do it. I want to be around women. Fine, great. And
same reason I wanted to do it.
yeah, precisely. To be honest with you, you know, I'm 18 years old, and I thought to myself, yeah, actually, it could be a benefit here. It could be really, really nice for me. And eventually, I found out actually, no, it's not. But I thought I'm going to give it a go anyway. And it got into about 3 months. And by this time, I remember I've done, you know, barbering for about 3 years. So I've built up this little kind of persona of I'm quite good at doing men's hair now. And by 3 months in of doing this women's course, like I was just crumbled, mate. I was crumbled by stuff that I couldn't do because I just couldn't do it. It just was out my skill zone. And I just remember being humbled by that so much that it kind of almost haunts me today to know and say to myself that you can never know everything. You know what I mean? And even today, like I'll always remember that feeling of just it was a horrible feeling of like just
out of your depth.
Yeah, out my depth, and just humbled, mate, humbled. But I never gave up because with the discipline that I attained through sport and stuff, it was like my mindset was too strong to say I'm gonna give this one up. I just went through it, didn't like it, the long hair and stuff, and trying to colour hair and stuff like that just wasn't really, it didn't stimulate me. But eventually, I met a guy called Mario, who was the owner of Mill Hill Hob, and I was introduced by the head of the department, Paul, and he invited me to go and shadow him on the weekends. So I went to shadow him, I think it was on a Friday or something like that.
In the salon?
In the salon. I was there all day, just watching this man cut hair so beautifully. All these lines were so clean, the sections were so clean. Oh my days. I was just like, yeah, I've never really seen anything like that. You know, coming from college where, you know, I didn't understand anything about the haircutting process in women's hair, to seeing this guy just take clean sections, clean lines, and I was like, wow, this guy's incredible. He's sitting down doing it as well. It was really good. And then eventually, like, I was there, and because we didn't have social media back then, what I used to do is I used to take pictures on I think I still had like a, you know, I don't know what it was. I think it must have had this camera that I just upload pictures onto the computer and then print them out and then just slot them into this like portfolio, and just carry this thing with me, a red book with like all these cool hairstyles, some patterns in it, some textured hairstyles, fringes, and I took this book to that hob, and all the assistants were like looking at my book going, wow, you do really nice men's hair. So when this Mario caught wind of the men's hair that I was doing, he sort of said, cut my hair. I was like, yeah, I will, no problem, easy for me. And I gave him a haircut.
How old was you now?
And now I'm 19.
19.
19. 19, 20. And I cut his hair, and he was gassed, like he loved it. And I loved it. I loved it because he said, I'd pay 50 quid for this. And at the time I was like, really? Wow. I was charging like, you know, £10 in my grandmother's garage. And I was like, wow, really? Yeah, 50 quid, yeah? He's like, this is the best haircut I've had. I was like, yes. Yeah, and it felt validated, you know what I mean? And eventually we got to the conversation of, you know, look, if we take you to our academy and you learn more about women's hair and stuff, would you consider having a job here with us? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because at the time I started to discover that I actually really liked the kind of shorter women's haircuts, the bobs, the pixies, which were kind of a bit more up my street, precision based and creative.
Back then it was all very strong haircuts in women's
Yeah, that's
hair,
right,
wasn't
yeah.
it?
And that's what attracted me towards that and the brand itself particularly, because I just wanted to be creative. Like I didn't get into barbering because I was taught how to do any kind of foundational haircutting. I just picked up a pair of scissors and, you know, visualized what I wanted to create. And I think that's the key part that's stood by me this whole 16, 17 years, is that I once had this imagination that, you know, you can't teach someone how to have imagination. I wanted to cut my friend's hair. I knew what I wanted to create in my mind, and I went for it.
Any big mistakes back then?
Nothing that I can remember.
Really?
But that's
Wow.
probably because they didn't say anything.
And did you ever feel like you was going to give up?
Nah, because I had that strong, you know, sport background, which was always with me, and that's a strong discipline. You know, I used to box, I used to play football, and it was always just never give up. That was the nature of sport. You don't give up. And so that carried with me, and I think that kind of determination set me so far in the project of, I want to get good at hair, I want to put everything into it, I want to study it, I want to admire it, and be the best I can possibly be at it.
So what would you say to a young person that's watching this, a student, that might be thinking about giving up?
Never give up. Never give up. But at the same time, look, it is different for everyone, because not as many people will love it as much as you. And I think if you genuinely love it, like, it's impossible for you to give up. How can you give up?
And did you work closely with Atkin?
Not really. Nah.
Did you watch a lot of his work in the academy?
Not so much. It was more so, you know, watching Darren Bain. But the funny thing is, I'm working with Atkin's son more now, who works for us.
Really?
Works with us, what I say. He works with us. His son.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was your big break? When did you first get noticed?
Sure. So I spent literally, so from 18 years old, I went to Salon International for the first time. I was at college during this time, and we went on a college trip to the Salon International for the very first time. Didn't know nothing about it. Just got told to go. And when I went there, I think this was the first time that I was really inspired by this stage work, that to see people on stage just glorifying hair. It was glamorous, people sharing their knowledge, and I stood there and I thought, I want to do this. And I think it was specifically like seeing people like Chris Foster there, Simon Shaw on stage, just thinking to myself, these guys are just, you know, like, they're icons here, you know what I mean? People just glorifying the work that they're doing and stuff like that. And that for me was like a target. You know, I said to myself, you know what, I want to do this.
That was a goal.
I want to do this. This is what I want to do.
You want to be on
sure.
stage.
Because at the time, I knew I had something, some kind of flair or talent with hair, with men's hair specifically. Like, I knew I had something, I just didn't know how to show anyone. You know what I mean? And I knew that because when I was at college, I was, you know, teaching some people. And it felt amazing. So I couldn't imagine how it felt when you were standing there teaching people and giving them what you've got. You know what I mean? And now I looked at that, I was like, wow, I could do that.
So when did other people notice what you knew you had inside you?
So this was the hard part. It took years. It took years of trying, desperation, and like, you know, I was...
So did you always know inside you was going to be big?
Didn't know inside, but I knew I wanted to achieve that certain something, which was standing on stage and, you know, showing my haircuts off. You know, I was doing different haircuts at the time where haircuts weren't that different. And I went to Hob momentarily because I really believed that they would open the door for me. Because you got to think that there wasn't Instagram then, there wasn't Twitter then when I was, you know, entering the industry. It was simply, okay, if you're in a magazine, you're getting noticed. And how did you get in a magazine 15 years ago? You either have to be an ambassador of a product brand, a colour brand, a scissor brand, a clipper brand. But when you're working in your grandmother's garage at 18, 19 years old, and it doesn't really, no one's knocking on your garage door saying, hey, you're really talented, you are, why don't we write an article in your magazine? It doesn't work like that.
So when did you get noticed?
So eventually, it wasn't until I left Hob, tried to become an educator at another place called the Hair Project in Shoreditch, thought that would be my entry, a little bit more of a smaller company. They're on stage at Pro Hair Live and this, that and the other. I thought, they're the ones, I'll go there. Didn't work, 4 months, they were too small a company, made me redundant. If anything, I was going sideways and not forwards. And eventually, Sam, my business partner now, Samuel Palmer, we went to the same school together, but we weren't necessarily friends. We had different social circles. I was more in the sporty group, he was more in the naughty group. And what we did realise at the end when we were both leaving school is that we were interested in hair because we kind of almost had the same hairstyle. He had a little diagonal fringe and so did I. He had a bit of blonde in it and so did I. And, you know, we sort of looked from far, as I see your hairstyle, and see mine. And it wasn't until about 2 years after we left school that eventually we reconnected because on Facebook, he was seeing the men's work that I was doing and he jumped straight into hairdressing with Sanriz. And I was looking at the hairstyling that he was doing. And as I was getting into women's hair, I started to see, wow, he's really good, you know? And he was looking at my fades and thinking, wow, he's really good. So we started to connect on a social level. Then we became friends. We started going out together. We started pooling ideas and we sort of said to ourselves, not jokingly, but also like futuristically said, you know what, we'll open a salon one day, like a men's grooming parlour type of bespoke type place. And this was like 2012, where I just left the Hair Project, made redundant, very frustrated. You know, I'm from 18 to 22 now. I'm, you know, trying to find my way to build a reputation in this industry, and I was getting nowhere. You know, where I'd seen Sam, who's in magazines, he's won competitions, he's part of this Project X team, he's part of this team, and I'm thinking, how is this guy doing this, man? How's he doing this? You know, at that point I was just so frustrated, but never giving up. It was more of a case of, right, I'm frustrated, but I'm just going to go back to what I enjoyed doing more so, which was cutting hair, and I was cutting hair in my grandmother's garage phenomenally, taking over the whole city. Alongside Sam as well, who was, you know, doing loads of haircuts.
So working in your nana's garage full time?
That's right, yeah, full time. So from 15, when I first started, I was doing my mates' haircuts in there.
Charging what?
Charging £5.
Same as me.
£5. Like nothing at first, obviously, but then £5, then £8.50, then £10, then £15.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where I'm in my grandmother's garage, I'm charging £20. Like there's like rain dropping from the floor. I had this one tube light. I didn't even have a mirror on the wall and I was charging £20. But it was because the haircut was of a certain standard, which was why the door kept opening and shut, open and shut. I was banging out 80, 90 haircuts a week in that garage. And
trying to add up what you was earning.
Mate, I'll show you. I've got it on my phone, like from 2013. Like,
really?
I used to do mate, I could 20, 30 haircuts a day in some days, you know, and they were like 8 o'clock.
So you was earning good money as a young man?
Yeah. I was literally gung-ho, like non-stop. But then what happened is it took effect on my kind of private life, really. I had no time for friends. I was so motivated, not necessarily by earning money.
Was it just that you wanted to do everybody's hair?
Precisely. And part of that was the ego that got hold of me.
You wanted to go in the pub and see everyone's hair you did. And
that was a great feeling as well, like always going out and just, oh, Josh, and being the man.
Very parallel story to mine.
Being the man.
Yeah.
Being the man that everyone knew in the town to go to for hair.
Yeah, that was exactly the same for me.
Bro, it was like, and also the ego got the better of me because like, if I said no to someone, I know they're going to go somewhere else because they need a haircut. So I would never say no. I was the yes man.
Yeah.
I would trim up until past midnight. And it was a case of like, it got to, when I was still working with Hob, I'd come home from finishing at 8 o'clock, taking me an hour to get home, and I'd start at 9, you know, and be working until who knows what time. And then all of a sudden,
you had a strong work ethic.
Strong work ethic. Nothing's changed much.
So when did the MH Fed come into play?
Sure. So eventually we opened our salon, 2014.
Your own salon?
Yeah, men's spa salon, myself and Sam. And, you know, the harmony between us was that he really wanted to focus on the salon. I really wanted to focus on being creative. But we still had no outside opportunity. And it wasn't until 2015, October, we were invited to take, you know, a slot on the stand of the MH Fed. And the reason being is because we met Adam the year before at Salon International.
Adam
we just
Sloan.
we just introduced ourselves, and you know, he just said, "Oh, you're a really cool boy, isn't he?" You know, it was our team, and he was just really sort of you know, warm to us, really. You know, we're barbers, and it was an industry that had just started growing and developing now, and you know, we just four cool lads looking, you know, around his stand. And we stayed in touch, and he offered us this opportunity to be on his stand the following year. And I'll never forget it because it was I was really excited, you know, nervous.
I remember it.
And yeah, I had this model that I cut, which was my client, and you know, he was just one of my favourite guys to cut because he had this hairstyle that was so like just beautiful. And we had this stage at 1 o'clock, and then there was Sam and Charlie, who had already done stage work before, so you know, they're all excited, comfortable, but I was excited but nervous. And got to 1 o'clock, and my model didn't turn up. He just didn't turn up. So you can imagine them.
You had it all in your head what you wanted to do.
Everything. I was It's 2015. I first went to Salon International when it was like 2009. And I've been waiting 6 years to have this kind of opportunity to stand in front of people and talk and do hair, and yeah, it just didn't turn up. Anyway, the guys went on, so I stood back there. It was steaming, I was furious, and the boys were just giggling at me because I was angry. And she called me, "Oh, bro, I'm still on the way, I just couldn't make it, sorry I couldn't answer your calls, I'm on the way." I was like, "Oh shit, it's too late." So I said to Adam, "Look, if there's anything later, let me know and we'll all come back on." So eventually he came back to me and said, "Yeah, we've got a 3 o'clock slot." As you know, the people are cancelled. I turned around to the boys and said, "Boys, we've got another chance at this at 3 o'clock." And they turned around to me and they said, "No, we're done now. If you want, you go." I was like, "Shit."
What, on your Todd?
Yeah, I'm your Todd, mate, yeah. I was like, "Oh, shit. Really?" I said, "Fine, I'll do it.
Thrown in the deep end.
I went and I took my model there, just me on the stand there, whipped on the gown, and at this point I had no experience, you know, and it was you know, 3 o'clock, the show finishes at 4, we were close to the exit. I didn't know if people were walking to the exit or they were walking to come and see me because I had my head down. I was just doing the trim, just like that, just trimming. And eventually, as I sort of got towards the end of the haircut, I started to get a little more confident because the trim was coming out how I do it, just in the salon. You know, it's like the sweat started to dry up a little bit.
Always gives you the confidence when it starts to
that's
happen,
it.
Right?
The sweat started to dry up a little, my chest started to come up a little bit, my head started to come a little bit, and I started to see people around me. I was like, "Oh, wow!" So I started to blow dry it, and I was getting really confident now because it was where I wanted it to be.
Looking good.
The hairspray was out. And I started to get really confident. And all of a sudden, this woman asked me a question, and I was like, it felt like this question was going in slow motion, because I was like, shit, what if I don't know the answer? There's a lot of people here.
Yeah.
And she must have had a very simple question, like, I don't know, what guard did you use on the side? And I was like, number 2. And it filled me up with so much confidence, and like, wow, I just given someone some information here, and like, phones were out, and I was like, wow, this is cool. And I took the gown off and it's the model up, and I was like, yeah, it's sick. And the first time I felt like I'd accomplished something, you know, like that I wanted to achieve. And it was like that moral accomplishment was like an addiction, you know, like, okay, what's next? And from that point I thought, you know what, I can do this, and I can do this around the world if I want to do it. And, you know, I think that was the first bit of exposure from the MH Fed that allowed me to have the belief in myself that I can do it.
And how long was you with the MH Fed for?
So I still consider ourselves with them today, you know.
You do?
We partnered with them on our beginners course, you know. So that was 2016 when I had like this the MH Fed I was part of the Feds, the Young Feds.
Young Feds, yeah.
2016.
And how many sort of shows did you do with them over the next few years?
Yeah, quite a few, to be fair.
You did one in Southend, didn't you?
Yeah, we did one in Southend, which was really cool. Really, really enjoyed that one. We did, obviously, the one in Salon International that particular year, which was cool. We did a few. We did a few up in Manchester, all the kind of UK exhibition-based ones, you know, and it was where I started to sort of stand out a little bit more. And that was more so not just for my style, but for speaking as well, you know, for being able to speak in a way that was quite fundamentally clear about my haircuts, which is what I really enjoyed doing, you know, just passing information. And I think what I kind of learned upon that journey was it all started out about me trying to show everyone what I can do, and it ended with me sharing with everyone what I can do. So it was kind of like an ego death by the end of it, because I'd realised that actually I'm not really trying to do this here for me. I'm trying to do this here for the industry, so that ultimately, if this industry becomes inspired by what I can do and the brand that we have, then we can start to charge more for what we're worth. And ultimately, that's a great value within ourselves, you know? That's an accomplishment. You know, why can't we charge more for what we do? Because what we do is, you know, so unique in some ways, in terms of like what we've recently experienced through these many lockdowns, which is to provide people with a better state of mental health.
People have appreciated hairdressers and barbers
For sure.
through the lockdown. I love what you said earlier about being the hair doctor.
Yeah.
Because people these days, are you a hairdresser,
Are you a
hairstylist,
barber?
you know, and you said...
Mate, I'm a hair doctor.
I love that.
I think I sincerely believe that we should associate ourselves with that. But again, it comes down to how much do you put into your service. You know, like, this, are you a barber or you're a hairdresser? This question has been around for the past 7 years. And when it comes to me, I'm like, yeah, I'm neither. What I do is I take people's problems and I solve them. So you might as well call me a hair doctor. And I sincerely believe that if we're going to have a status of anything, that should be it. The trouble is we don't get paid like doctors. But who's saying that we can't achieve somewhere close to it? Because ultimately, when you make someone feel and look fantastic, that's just priceless. Priceless.
Absolutely. Talk me through some of your highs in your career so far.
Sure. One thing that stands straight to mind is me being in Brazil with an absolute roaring crowd of a near 2,000 people. I don't know if you've ever been to Brazil and done a show there, but these people are
How did that
crazy.
come about?
I think eventually, as I started to do some international shows, you know, more and more people caught wind and started to contact me for shows and stuff like that. And one of the, you know, the biggest icons in Brazilian barbering, Sr. Elias, contacted me to come to Brazil, which was really interesting actually, because he came to study with our academy just before the show as well. So I kind of built up this relationship with him. and eventually went and done his show. And there was, you know, like I say, near 2,000 people. It was by far the biggest show that I've ever done before. There was me, there was another gentleman called Andy Authentic from America, and I will never forget, I got introduced as one of the judges for the competition there. And I knew that there was a lot of excitement about me going to Brazil, because I had a few followers that were, you know, messaging me from Brazil. I didn't know what they were saying, but I could just, you know. And when I went on that stage, mate, oh my gosh, I'd never felt a vibration so thick and thorough running through my chest. Like, I came out with this board, like this judging board, and I was just like, oh, all right. I was like, oh guys, and this little tiny wave, because of the vibration that they was giving me, ended up in a full-blown like, you come on stage, what do you do? Yeah, guys, and this wave just, the vibration that just went through my heart, to my head, into my hands, just pulsated me.
Wow.
And I don't know what came over me. It was like possessive, but it was also like, oh my gosh, do you really care that much? Like, who am I? I cut hair.
Cut hair very well.
Yeah. But at the time, it was like, I think it was a time of like, wow, what have I done? Like, how has it happened? You know, and I just
Why
felt...
do you think they got so excited then?
Well, because I just love where they cut hair.
Yeah?
Yeah, man.
Simple as that, right?
Yeah, but like, it's love, bro. Like, it's pure love. Like, you got to think in Brazil as well, there's not a lot of opportunity for many things. But what there is opportunity for in barbering there is to save their lives, you know? Like, it's a trade that can offer them a way out, you know? So it is passionate for them. It's everything. It's mad.
And now you travel all around the world constantly. You've done one in Korea. There's 3,000 people.
Yeah, 3,000 people. Slightly more reserved, that crowd. Yeah, slightly more emotionless. But nonetheless, like, you know, to see that amount of people there, you know, watching what you do.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
And tell me this, right? Because your work's incredible, right? Super tasteful, super creative. You could win Men's British Hairdresser of the Year over and over again. Why haven't you entered it yet?
I think that was everything I wanted, to be honest with you. But that was coming from a state of ego. When I was 18, you know, I looked at these people winning these awards, and I was like, wow, I'd love to win that Men's Hairdresser one time. And I think, you know, after experiencing education, like as a educator, I kind of dropped that idea.
So you wouldn't enter it now? Or never say never?
I'd like to win it without entering it, but I know that's not the case.
Why wouldn't you enter? Because you're doing collections all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think like I don't really have that experience in putting stuff together. Like, I love cutting hair. I love doing beautiful work. I love working on different models, challenging models. But I know that there's more to it than that. I don't believe that it's genuinely about how good you are at cutting hair. I think it's now about how good you are at editing a photo. Like, and I'm not there. That's not me. So I don't know if that is something that I want. You know, I say that I might enter it. Who knows? I just haven't been mentored around it.
You've got to enter it, Josh. I think, you know, I mean, I judge the competition, you know, and yeah, there's photography and, you know, and editing. But, you know, you're a cool guy. You know, you've got all the contacts, photographers, you do amazing work. You could win it over and over again.
I would honestly love to attempt that and to, you know, to hold that. And just for the once over, for like an internal verification. But then I think to myself, do I need that? I am who I am. I've done what I've done, you know. And every part of me wanted that when I was like, yo, I need to be the man. And now it's not about me.
You are the man.
But the thing is, like, the whole reason why we're called Menspire is because it's not about me trying to be the man or Sam trying to be the man, but together we're men, and we want to do something better for the industry, and that's why we're called Menspire. We're trying to inspire the men's industry.
So what advice would you give to someone that wants to thrive in the hair world?
First and foremost, never give up. Stay disciplined, stay humble, learn as much as you can from whoever you can. You know, I think they're the main core principles to you know, succeeding. And we see it all the time with students in here, like, people are relentless. And if you can be relentless in learning, there's only one way up.
And how important is it to have great mentors, great teachers?
Yeah, absolutely vital. You know, if I could have the people that I have now around me when I was learning, I would have been, you know, in a place a lot quicker than where I am now. You know,
at 32 with 27 salons?
The friends and contact, the people that I have in my contact list now that I can reach out to, that would reply to me, if I had that when I was 18, I would be in a totally different place. I would probably be sat here at 24 and not 32. But, you know, and that's just the power of mentorship. Like, you know, you can get a lot of guidance, you know, from things that people have done within a short amount of time. You know, like my 16 years of experience, however small it is, if I can provide that to an 18-year-old now, they won't have to go through the pain. They won't have to go through the struggle.
Learn through their own mistakes.
They won't have to go through the trauma that I went through. They can just have it from the experience that I have and then start to make their own personal mistakes.
So what's your thoughts on the hair game as being an attractive profession for someone to come into now?
For me, you know, it's always going to be a creative start. Like, no one picks up a pair of scissors thinking, I can make some dough from this. You just don't. You know, I think I speak for everyone when I say, you know, the reason why we start is because we love making people feel good. We love, you know, playing around with hair. And it's a little bit different for the youth today because we're so attached to screens. Like, we're in front of screens 24/7. But then that's also up to us. That's our responsibility to make something attractive digitally, you know, whether it's an image of a model, some movement, some graphics in motion. Like, it's our responsibility to make it exciting and creative for someone to start in this industry.
And how would you describe the hair industry to someone that is thinking of coming into it or has just started out in it?
How would I describe it? Good question. I've been answered that before. There's definitely a lot of patience required, you know, and I think that stands for, you know, 10 years ago, today's world. Patience being, you know, you're not going to get good quick, necessarily. It will take time. And also in a business sense of, you're not going to earn good quick as well. So I think, you know, anyone coming into it has to stop and think that, you know, it's not like Amazon, it's not just going to come the next day. You know, we're so used to that now where we can have anything in our hands and our laps.
Would you
know,
say
instantly.
that's the same as most trades though?
Yeah, definitely. It's you know, anything practical based, you know, we have to look at it like that.
And do you think that new blood recognise the opportunities that are in the hair world?
I think so, more so now, yeah.
Do you think parents recognise it?
I would love to say more so now than you know, when I started. You know, when I started and myself and Sam, you know, it was just like, okay, you're going to do that? That's strange. You know, it was almost looked upon like, why would you do that? You know, if you still have the opportunity to go to university or college or this and that and the other. Whereas today, like, you know, people are looking at it like, I could become a platform artist without even starting. I could become a session stylist. I could do this, because so many doors have opened between now and the last 15 years that people look at it and go, wow, I could achieve that because they have. Whereas, you know, I at 15 was like, okay, I could achieve that. I don't know how, but I probably can. Now it's like, I'm gonna do that. You know, a 15-year-old looking into the industry now, I'm gonna be an educator. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna be on TV. You know, because it's so open, which is great because it shows how much we've evolved it, you know, within the industry, yeah.
And do you think someone leaving college these days is industry ready, or in your experience, do they usually have to relearn in the work environment again?
Good question. I speak passionately about this one because, you know, we here at Menspire, we run a 12-week program, 4 days a week. And in today's world, there are people that frown upon that because they don't believe that you can truly come out of here in a certain way or standard. I believe different. And let me tell you why. We're in 2022, and you're not going to see anyone at 16 years old go and take that 3 years apprenticeship anymore for 450 quid, 500 quid a month. Them days are done, they're numbered. No 16-year-old wants to go and make tea, scrub sinks, sweep hair for 3 years and do a little bit of training when some of the stylists can be bothered.
And clean the toilets, yeah.
And clean toilets and do training once a week when the stylist can be bothered.
Yeah.
No one's doing that. Evolution is a thing that changes business, changes people, and if you don't change with it, you will get left behind. So here's what we're doing. We're accommodating for that new wave of understanding, okay, how good can we get people quick? You know, and it does, it depends. Like, you can run a 12-week program with quality. You just have to distinguish how.
And how much would that cost somebody?
So we run a course here just over £5,000 for a 12-week program, and our ratio is 1 to 4. So we generally have 8 students and 2 tutors who are
good ratio.
Who tutors, by the way, are more than well experienced, you know, with world-class ability. And you know, I think there's definitely has been a wave of people trying to make money quick with these short courses, which of course is where you can frown upon it. And I think, you know, it's a steady ground between finding the balance of, okay, how good can you really give quality?
It's a bit like Strictly. If you get really good teachers teaching someone every day intensely, they learn quick, don't they?
Yeah, that's a great way to see it as well. But yeah, you know, not everyone is ready when they come out of college because of maybe the volume of people, you know, and that's hard. It's hard to see because, yes, maybe there's 1 tutor or 10 or 2 tutors between 20 students and stuff. That's hard. That's really hard work to do it over 1 year, 2 years. So there must be some kind of modification to how we see people entering the industry, because 6 months in, people might go, no, I'm not interested anymore.
Do you have apprentices in your salons?
We don't now. We don't have apprentices.
You don't?
We don't now.
So what happens if someone can't afford to come and pay £5,000 for a course with you guys? Where do they learn?
This is the tough thing. And I think we're trying to, you know, figure it out ourselves to see, you know, what the options are. But it's very tough. We haven't found out that information yet. We haven't found an answer for that. But you're right, there is a difficulty there because, you know, what we do is we're a private institute. We're not funded by no one. We're not sponsored by no one. We sponsor ourselves the same way that we have done for the last 8 years.
Do you think someone could learn from the beginning at home online?
Good question. Nah.
Why?
Nah. Because it's so practical based, you need someone over your shoulder, you know. You need someone over your shoulder guiding you in a certain way, moving your hands in a certain way, moving your body in a certain way, fixating your eye on a certain thing. You need that live in person, you know. Otherwise, you know, what you learn online, you'll just become a carbon copy of something that is not you, not expressive.
Hair colour in men's, what's your thoughts?
I'm allergic to colour, actually.
Are you?
So I don't really think about it.
Right.
Yeah, quite frankly. I like it. Got nothing against colour.
Because a lot of footballers are having colour in their hair now,
I think in terms of, you know, revenue, fantastic. But yeah, sadly, because I don't do colour, kind of affects our momentum on doing it for the whole company. But yeah, also at the same time, I think it's quite tricky as well, because it's a bit of a process, and I don't know really. I think it's definitely something that should be explored more within the industry for the sake of revenue. But let's see.
What about creativity as well?
Creativity, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely see a lot more colour flying around in Europe, specifically Spain and more like this, sunnier countries. And it excites me, but also frights me because I'm allergic to it.
Right.
So,
and I suppose it's not your area of expertise as well.
Nah. But what I do enjoy is I love cutting colour, like slightly grown out colour, where I can be a little bit more playful with the design. That for me is like, when I see some colour, I'm like, okay, give it to me.
So obviously it does interest you.
It does, yeah. Just not doing that.
But you can get someone else to do it for you.
Yeah,
you haven't got to do it, have you?
Yeah.
What do you think about it being included into the curriculum?
Yeah, I think it should be. For men's, absolutely. 2022, it's fantastic to be added as a next part of, skill, because someone might take that and run with that, as opposed to cutting, that they might not prefer. But if it's not an option, then that's it.
And you've probably been asked this question a million times, right? But I have to ask it, right? How long do you think short back and sides and fade is going to be fashionable?
I think it's timeless. I think it's, I think now, it depends. I've travelled the world to see different cultures, different types of societies and stuff like that. I think it's timeless.
You think so?
I think it's timeless, I think we are stepping away from it and on a mass scale, i.e. a skin fade has turned from a skin fade to a skin taper. Skin taper has turned into a little bit of dusting of the hair on the ears to eventually hair's got longer. I think that we've seen on the mass moving away from it, but it will always be there.
But you say that, right? Look at the decades. Look at the 60s, right? No one was having short hair then. Look at the 70s.
Yeah.
No one was having short hair then. 80s, no one was having short hair. 90s, the whole Gallagher thing, no one was having it. All right, towards the end of the 90s, people got into short hair again.
Yeah. But I think from then, nothing much has changed in terms of the need and want for it. And I think that's because we've been heavily influenced by the hip-hop culture and how that's transferred into so much of society today, and that's short. It's short, militant,
So do you think the it kids are going to be wearing short hair in 10 years' time?
That I cannot conclude. Because if you was to ask the same question in the 2010s, we would have not known. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing in the 2000s. People still are, almost banging out somewhat skin fades, but not quite. Do you know what? It's funny you say that, actually, because as I mentioned, when I was learning and discovering hair, 2008, 9, number 2 was short. So someone saying, I want a number 1 where you can see the scalp, that was like, shit, really? You want a number 1? Yeah? Okay, cool. So it's interesting. I can't really comment on that. But what I can comment on is I'll always be the first to do something new.
You've got 27 salons. How do you manage them, Josh?
Good question. I'll pass that on to Sam.
And what's it been like? How important has that relationship been to the success of Men's Style?
Yeah, it's the foundation, really. It's the balance that we both need in our lives as well. It's not. I don't pass everything to Sam momentarily. Like he's controlling it more, and he'll come to me with some questions and some judgment on some things and stuff like that. And I think for us, that balance is the real key harmony that's allowed us to excel as a brand in total. You have the business and you have the brand, and they both have to weigh up. We were once in a position where our brand was sky high. Everyone knew us, but the business itself was like, we're holding on here to a tight rope. And you don't know that when the brand is here, overshadowing everything that's going on.
So would you say he does operations, finance, and you're more creativity,
that's
marketing?
Right. That's literally it. So I will take care of more the education, making sure people are up to speed, making sure that the brand looks the way that it looks, and Sam will be, focus more on mentoring all of the stylists, ensuring that they're hitting targets, and looking at new propositions, ensuring that the directors are on form, and a real big mentor. That's what he is as to the salons.
And what would you say the secret to scaling your business is?
Control. First and foremost, control, like anything. Even when you're hair cutting, what's the secret to a great haircut? Control. I think that's one of the most biggest factors to moving out, branching out, and discipline that comes with control, trust, and also vision. Systems, structure, obviously very, very important, an integral part of everyone following suit.
Do you have the same systems in all your shops?
Yeah, we do, from the way that it should look to the way that the stylist should act.
To the music?
To no music in our case.
And why is that?
For us, it's about engaging in conversation. Our intention is for retention. What does that mean? Well, we want our stylists to talk to our customers. But if you've got music going on, in some cases where we've experienced it's loud or it's not quite tasteful or whatever, that can have an impact on how someone sees your business. If you've got deep house going on in one salon, some people they will love it and they'll be attracted towards that. But there'll also be some clientele that, I'm not going back there because it's like I've been to restaurants and they've played music. It's just like drum and bass.
Pissed you off?
Yeah, I don't mind drum and bass. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know what I'm eating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for us, it's about having a kind of very, very neutral feeling of an impact of an environment that has a great impact through conversation. Something that we'll always say is every conversation counts. And that's something that people will never forget, how you make them feel. Because it's not just about you giving them a haircut, but you're giving them an experience where you're, in somewhat, we're counselling some people. That's part of what we do. So to have that on a very neutral level, there's a sense of peace. How many times have you turned off the music at the end of the day, all of a sudden you feel serenity, you feel peace. We want that throughout the day. We don't want to go home and feel like, finally, can relax. I want to be relaxed when we're at work.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this all the time.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So
how would you
just our thing.
describe your management style? Do you rule with an iron fist, or do you give everyone freedom, or is there somewhere in between?
Yeah, I think we're very, very firm but fair. And I think if you was to put me and Sam together, I think he's the more firm and I'm the more fair.
Right. So it's a yin and yang, good cop, bad cop.
Yeah. But we try to keep it balanced where it's not, what I mean? So we don't try and look like either one or the other.
Yeah.
But it has to be that,
And tell me this, do you ever fear that you could lose it all?
How would that happen? How do you do that?
That's good. I like that answer.
I'm not sure about
So you don't sit there worrying at night thinking,
nah,
this could go, this could slip through my fingers?
Nah, because myself and Sam, we're both very godly, and I think we already know this whole thing will be gone tomorrow.
I actually heard you saying this. You were saying that your 4 most important things in life, in this order, is God, family, exercise and food, and work. And the thing that struck me is, how does exercise come before work?
It's a mental game. It always has been that. You've got to think, I was the sportiest person before cutting hair. And for me, that is the mental stability for working well. Like if I go 7 days without going to the gym or doing boxing or some football, I start to feel a certain way. And I think people forget that. And I think, that there are sort of, certain things that you need to have in order to be successful. One is to have a hobby that can keep you creative. One is something that can keep you physically fit. One is something that can keep you your intellect stimulated, reading. And obviously companionship, love, relationships or friendships. You know, these are the things, mate, that keep you well balanced. And I think everything else, you can chuck it out the window, you know, and that's it. That's it.
And tell me this, do you ever suffer with imposter syndrome?
Nah.
Silly question, I suppose, that one.
Yeah.
And are you optimistic about the future of hairdressing or barbering?
Yeah, I would like to say so. I'd like to say that we're kind of like always at the forefront of innovation and, you know, always looking for something new, always looking for new stimulation, whether it comes with or without us. So yeah, always.
And where do you think it's heading, the business? Like the future of hair?
Some might say the metaverse, but hopefully not. Not entirely sure. I think we are very much enjoying our process, and you know, we are always humble enough to take on whatever comes next. You know what I mean? So let's see.
And if you was the president of British hairdressing and barbering, what one thing would you do to help safeguard and support the industry?
If I had that kind of control, I would literally go to everyone's price list and put it up by 20% so that we could save that 20% on VAT. That's what I'd do.
Get everyone's charge.
Get everyone's charge and there would be like a minimum. I don't care how good you are, because those that are charging small, they're not pursuing education because they probably aren't earning enough to pursue it. If they did, they'd probably pursue it. You know what I'm saying? So on a financial level, I'd probably get everyone to charge more, because the way that I see it, like, if we're here in St Albans, okay, imagine there's 5 barbershop owners in the whole town. You've got one charging £10, one charging 15, one charging 20, one charging 17. If all of them just said, look, we're all just going to charge £25, that's it. No public can enter your spot unless they're paying £25. What are you going to do? What's the public going to do?
Go get their haircut.
Choice. Got to get your haircut.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you go to, £25 minimum. How can we not operate like that? But it comes down to communication. It doesn't come down to education, it comes down to communication in somewhat. Okay, his salon might not be as nice. Okay, cool, charge more than the bandwidth, which is the lowest. How can we get there?
That is a very good question as well. So what's your plan? What's your focus? What's your purpose now?
So for me, I would really like to discover the online education. I've been very, very blessed to travel all around the world and meet many different students from different cultures and countries. But there's also still a lot of people out there that cannot access, you know, mine and our information, which I would really love to explore. And, you know, I can't get to all corners of the globe, and also I want to slow that down, but I can speed that up on an alternative program, which is by going online, where they can receive education in their own homes. It doesn't matter the kind of wealth that they have or not. It's accessible. So that's really where I want to take, you know, what we have here at Menspire.
And when can we expect to see that?
As soon as possible. I've been trying to do it for 3 or 4 years. But
really? And what's holding you back?
What's holding me back is that, you know, I'm a victim of my own success, and I'll take the opportunity to go and fly to Chile to deliver a course, or, you know, here or there and everywhere. And I think that's me. I don't know if it's me being selfish or it's me taking opportunity, but it's something that I have to discover myself within myself.
And where does Josh Lamonaca want to be professionally in 10 years' time? Ooh.
Probably doing an interview with the next part. I'm not sure. For me, I like to work day by day, you know.
In a blue sky day, where would you like to see yourself?
Spain.
Living in Spain?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, living in Spain by a beach.
Doing online education on the beach?
Yeah.
Would you feel like you've made it then?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we're coming back to that. I've got it. Now I understand why we're doing this interview here. It's reinvigorating me to understand, okay, what does made it mean? Here we go, there it is. Yeah.
I think that's a good way to end it, guys. That's a wrap.
Yeah,
Josh Lamonaca.
Thank you so much, man. Brilliant.